I do want to thank Alice for allowing me to be part of the event today, and it's an honour as well to be on the same bill as Arnold here as well. As Alice mentioned, this is a book of 22 short stories, and it's my first publication. And I'm going to read now the first story from the book, which is a kind of a strange love story that's called Love and Liberty. Yeah. Hypnotised by her pulsating, ethereal aura, I was rendered unable to articulate a word or muster a single coherent thought, unconsumed with her. When I first gazed upon her with awe, I knew nothing of the world and little of love, but it must have been what they call love at first sight. I was aware only that the most significant event of my short life had occurred, and it would never be as before. She was special, beautiful, elegant, like an angel, exuding grace, femininity and warmth, yet undoubtedly also strength. A bitter hatred was reserved for times when we were not alone, a conveyor belt of unwanted strangers ignorantly lingering, incessantly interrupting our privacy and spoiling what should have been precious moments with their presence. Mostly there were others, so I visited before school commenced, whenever I could slip away from the apartment unseen, as our serenity was less likely to be disturbed. When they did manifest, those prized, fleeting minutes of solitude were wondrous, an uncontrollable connection bonding us and imprinting memories never to be forgotten. The hairs on my arms electrified to rigid attention, my soul shrouded by a sense of completeness unknown elsewhere, creating a world temporarily in perfect balance, a wholeness that could only be achieved through our union. They were the best moments. I would gush out a stream of consciousness to her about my friends, family, hopes and distant dreams, while she glowed radiantly, more angelic than ever. Most importantly of all, during these treasured instants, I confessed that I loved her more than anything in the world and couldn't live without her, that I would never leave her. She had to know the feelings bursting forth from my chest, like a tidal wave laying waste to the shore. I never spoke them to anyone else. They wouldn't have understood. Often I just stared at her, oblivious of the rest, and embraced the torrent of excitement and joy which overcame me when we were together. These emotions surged frantically through my adolescent body, filling me with unrestrained desire, as though only she gave me a reason to exist. At all other times, I lived as an empty husk, hollow, a purposeless, human-shaped void, sleepwalking through the seasons. In my 20s, I continued to visit her, passion undimmed, each encounter setting me ablaze with longing like the first. My devotion was certainly unconventional, as she was a bronze statue. 14 metres tall, standing on a 26-metre Pleistocene freshwater limestone pedestal, arms stretching to the sky and clutching a palm frond proudly above her head. A casual observer may even have described her as weather-worn, the jade green of her youth now stained to black in uneven patches, her lustre dulled by the decades of clandestine war waged by the elements, possibly even soiled by the generations of winged visitors which perched on her upper extremities. Admittedly with a fierce determination etched on her angular, slightly upturned face. Her short wavy hair and the folds of her dress billowed towards the citadel behind her. Her stance implied martyrdom, a sheer unrelenting willingness to sacrifice herself for her people, those she commemorated. This sense of selflessness emanated from her like a spiritual force. Perhaps that's why I took her so easily into my heart. When we were apart, I couldn't bear to think that others were on the hilltop, hundreds, even thousands on sunny days, swarming around her like ants, leering, chatting, laughing, buying souvenirs and taking pictures, intruding. Maybe some of them even felt the same way about her, a thought enough to unsettle me, to lose focus at work or become distracted when having coffee with a friend. It could be relieved only by returning to immerse within her calming essence. Then there was no confusion as the anger and anxiety faded away like the disjointed remnants of an unpleasant dream. I'm sure she always felt the same way. It was this certainty which prevented me from disclosing my thoughts to any family members, workmates, or even the closest friends within my inner circle. Some of them may have come to terms with my adoration of a statue, however claiming that it was reciprocated seemed a revelation to many. A magnetic attraction perpetually compelled us together as obstacles and responsibilities threatened to take me further afield. Opportunities to travel with college and subsequently work began to arise. These were repeatedly discarded on one flimsy pretense or another due to an inability to leave her for any length of time, as it immediately invoked an unbearable restlessness and sense of loss. Holidays and even weekend trips with friends were cancelled, causing my parents and sister to believe that I suffered from chronic homesickness. It wasn't necessarily homesickness, but a sense of unease and being in the wrong place, wherever that was and whoever I happened to be with. How I dreamed of simple, mundane things that all other couples took for granted. Even to touch her was beyond my ability. How would she feel to my gentle caress, to my kiss? Would it deepen the intimate connection we shared, the allure, the joy in each other's company? I decided it would just feel right. It frequently crossed my mind whether I could have a life of even partial fulfillment due to my unusual romantic inclination. What kind would it really be? Evidently a lonely one, but you can't choose who to love. I shuffled stiffly towards her, balancing awkwardly, the gnarled chestnut walking stick scraping the stone path harshly where it found purchase. The climb was far more difficult in an old man's body than in youth, and it had been trouble enough even then to navigate the steep, winding trail and never-ending sequence of narrow, chiselled steps. It required a gruelling trek through the wood after taking the number 48 tram from Deekference Terre in the inner city. Despite the difficulty of the ascent, the route was so familiar that I could have taken each step blindfolded. Greedily emptying the remnants of a water bottle to chapped lips and mopping beads of perspiration from my brow, I reached the clearing. A penetrating sense that this was the last time I would crest the hill caused me to pause then, lost. Reminiscing over countless pilgrimages to this shrine, a deep lungful of fresh air allowed me to regain composure and consider how on earth to say goodbye. There she was, rising majestically before me. I sheepishly fidgeted with my wedding band as a blonde 5-year-old girl wearing a pink dress patterned with cartoon daisies ran ahead, her distinctively bashful footsteps fashioning a crunching melody in the loose gravel. Isn't she pretty, Anka? My granddaughter seemed more interested in the spectacular view from where we now stood atop Gellert Hill. The world bustled chaotically in every direction the curious child could see from her newly found perspective. She too was struck by the magic of this place and the Danube below, truly comprehending it for the first time as it curved gracefully towards Margate Island, framed on the pest side of the city by the remarkable fairy tale opulence of the Parliament building. Appreciating it now, whereas in truth she passed it almost daily in blissful ignorance. Something of which she was not entirely aware connected for her in the dying of the light, like the final piece of a jigsaw puzzle slotting into place, though not as profoundly as with her grandfather a lifetime earlier. She made an internal promise to return here to the clearing at the top of the world. The river sparkled far below us, illuminated in the rich amber glare brought by the onset of dusk. It was the bloodline of the city and thronged each day with boats full of tourists eager to see the breathtaking sights, including my own beloved, from its renowned currents. Both sides of the city were linked through the Erzsébet Bridge, Margate Bridge, and many more spanning the glistening water, which had inspired Johann Strauss II to write the most famous of all waltzes over a century earlier. The Széchenyi Bridge had been my favourite to view her from, especially at night when she lit up the sky like a celestial beacon, gloriously bathed in light, contrasting starkly with the barren darkness which tried and failed to suppress her defiant bloom. On my way from Karalyutka, I would pass the crouching lions acting as sentinels on the bridge and marvel as she stood high above us all on the opposite side of the river, reaching towards the sky so that heaven must surely be within her grasp. Captivating and timeless, as if she would endure forever, as if she tied this place together, that she was its beating heart rather than the Danube. The Liberty statue was as perfect as I remembered back in April 1947 when she was presented. In the years that followed, numerous Soviet military-themed statues which had surrounded her, including the uniformed soldier victoriously planting a flag in her base, were relocated elsewhere. Probably Zobor Park, but it didn't matter. They were replaced by a muscular dragon slayer on her left and a dynamic torchbearer on the right. I often chuckled at the transition, as undoubtedly these were more appropriate figures to accompany a beautiful angel, one who I felt watched over and protected her people, though in reality she faced northeastward to Moscow. It's strange that I can always feel your warmth so strongly here, that I can feel you, inanimate yet more alive than anyone I've ever met. The connection between us has burned like an eternal fire from that first day, yet this is the last time we'll be together. I've adored you for 70 years, but I'm an old man now. You will be here watching over our city long after I'm gone, and that's what matters. I'm content knowing that I've experienced true love. I'm happy now to let go of this part of my life and be more present for my family in the time I have left. I've neglected them for too long, but I will never forget you and what you've meant to me. I'll always carry you in my heart. Seemingly operating to its own law, time slipped away unnoticed by Anka and I, now the only two remaining figures on the hilltop. Early hints of rain manifested from a cluster of grey cumulus clouds that moved in from the south, while this old man was transported back to those initial encounters as a boy, when my feelings were new, strange, raw, exhilarating, and meant everything. Come on, little one, it's late. Let's get you home. Released from her own reverie, Anka once again bounded ahead with the unbridled, explosive energy that only children and puppies possess. Be careful, child, I called out to her while fumbling with a new umbrella. Aware that I would be ignored, a crooked half-smile surfaced from my mild irritation at her adventurous nature as she cascaded wildly from the statue. Arms spread as though in flight, she descended the steps with reckless abandonment in search of the charming Celine Flavescen carnations which grew amidst the yew trees, or another suitable adventure that she could stumble into before dinner. As the elderly man's hunched shadow slowly retreated after blowing a final tender kiss, never to return, and the lavish crimson flare of sunset surrendered delicately to a tranquil indigo gloaming, the Liberty statue's face became slick with a thin layer of precipitation. To a keen observer, it would have appeared that tears had formed in the statue's eyes and rolled from her cheeks. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.